There's one question that almost nobody ever truly answers in life. When is enough actually enough? We are taught how to earn money, save it, and even invest it over a long time horizon. But almost nobody teaches when it is time to stop chasing more. As a result, many people keep running as if life were a race with no visible finish line. The problem is not hard work, but never having a clear definition of what enough means. And without a clear limit, the human mind usually reaches for the same thought. Just a little more. Just a little higher salary, just a little more savings, and only then it feels like peace might arrive. Today, we are simply going to examine 3 numbers that might define where that race could end. In theory, earning more money should create more freedom, but real life rarely works that simply. Many people discover that higher income also makes everyday life feel even busier. Lifestyle often expands automatically alongside income, driven more by habit than actual need. Without noticing it, every increase in income often arrives with new responsibilities attached. A larger house, a more expensive lifestyle, and higher expectations gradually become part of the routine. The distance between income and the feeling of having enough never seems to become much smaller. Many people describe this pattern as the modern version of the rat race. The problem is not a lack of progress, but the absence of a clearly defined finish line. Anything without a clear limit has a way of continuing to feel incomplete. This is the point where the meaning of enough begins to deserve a closer definition. To break out of this pattern, we do not need more motivation, we need a structure we can consistently rely on. We need something that turns the feeling of never having enough into something we can actually measure. I call this framework the Enoughness Algorithm. It is simply a way to map the relationship we have with money. The purpose is not unlimited wealth, but identifying the boundary of what we truly need. The framework contains 3 numbers, and each one serves a different psychological purpose. The first number is about survival, the second number is about comfort. The third number is about freedom. Once all 3 numbers are clearly defined, financial decisions begin to change on their own. The first number you need to know is your survival floor. It represents the absolute minimum amount of money you need each month to stay financially stable. Your survival floor is the point where your essential expenses are fully covered. It allows you to live without feeling constant financial panic every single day. Surprisingly, most people never calculate this number with any real clarity. They know they need money, but they rarely know the exact amount that truly keeps them safe. Financial uncertainty often feels more frightening than the shortage itself. The human brain struggles more with the unknown than with a clearly defined problem. Once you know your survival floor, your perspective on financial risk begins to change. You stop treating every unexpected expense as a potential disaster. This number gives you a clear lower boundary for your financial safety. It reminds you exactly how much you need before your basic life starts becoming unstable. As a result, fear has less control over your financial decisions. You begin making choices based more on logic than on emotional pressure. A survival floor is not about living in luxury or chasing expensive goals. It is simply about creating the minimum level of stability that protects your daily life. That minimum stability becomes the foundation for healthier financial decisions over time. It gives you enough confidence to think beyond today's immediate worries. Without a clear baseline, anxiety quietly influences almost every financial decision you make. When you know your survival floor, you gain clarity, confidence, and a stronger sense of control. The second number is your comfort ceiling. It marks the point where your daily life already feels comfortably manageable without constant financial pressure. At this level, your essential needs and most everyday wants are already covered. Life feels steady enough that money no longer dominates every decision you make. It is not a perfect life, and problems still exist, but there is enough stability and calm that financial stress no longer controls your daily routine. Beyond this point, earning more money does not always improve everyday life in meaningful ways. The biggest changes often become upgrades in lifestyle rather than genuine improvements in well-being. Even so, many people continue chasing higher income as though everything depends on it. The habit of pursuing more can become stronger than the satisfaction of already having enough. Over time, what often changes is the target itself rather than the experience of living. Each financial milestone quickly becomes the new normal, creating another goal just beyond reach. At this stage, the most important decision is no longer simply about increasing income. It becomes a question of how you want your additional money to improve your quality of life. Instead, you have to ask whether every extra dollar truly makes life feel better. More income is valuable only if it creates more freedom, health, relationships, or peace of mind. That question is surprisingly rare in everyday conversations about money. Most people spend years chasing bigger numbers without ever stopping to define what enough actually looks like. Modern society celebrates constant growth far more than the idea of having enough. Success is often measured by endless accumulation, even when contentment has already become available. The third number is called your freedom surplus. It represents the money that exists beyond what you need simply to survive. This is income that is no longer required to pay your essential living expenses. Your basic needs are already secure before this money even enters the picture. It is also money that goes beyond creating a comfortable everyday life. You are no longer using it just to maintain stability or routine convenience. Instead, it becomes financial space that gives you more meaningful choices. It allows you to decide based on purpose rather than immediate financial necessity. A freedom surplus gives you the option to slow down or change direction when needed. It can also give you the ability to support family, friends, or causes that truly matter. Many people spend years chasing this number without noticing something important. They focus on earning more while overlooking what financial freedom is actually supposed to provide. Real freedom does not come from the amount of money alone. It comes from the relationship you develop with money and the role it plays in your life. Money that controls your decisions will always demand more of your time and energy. No matter how much you earn, it can leave you feeling like you never have enough. Money that is understood well can quietly give that time back to you. It creates the freedom to spend more moments on health, relationships, learning, or simply living. At this point, money stops being the ultimate goal you constantly pursue. It simply becomes a quiet tool that supports the life you have intentionally chosen to build. The real problem is not that people work too hard, but that they never know when it is enough to stop pushing. Without a clear number for enough, every lifestyle upgrade quietly starts feeling like another basic necessity. Life begins to feel like a treadmill where constant effort creates motion but never changes your position. Many people describe this feeling as ambition, even when it often comes from having no clear direction. Without a survival floor, every financial setback continues to feel like a serious personal risk. Without a comfort ceiling, there is never a clear point where life actually feels finished or complete. The result is a life where financial progress continues while mental exhaustion quietly remains. That makes it easy to believe the problem is simply not having enough money, even when something else is missing. What is missing is a clear definition of the point where life should finally feel like enough. When that definition is missing, money keeps changing hands without fully resolving the underlying feeling. One small shift can completely change how you approach work, deciding your own financial number instead of leaving it undefined. It is not someone else's number or a social standard, but a number that actually matches your own life. Many people spend years chasing goals they never consciously chose for themselves. Anything you never clearly define has a way of always feeling incomplete. Once you know your survival floor, uncertainty begins carrying less weight than before. Once you know your comfort ceiling, ambition starts feeling more focused instead of constantly expanding. Once you understand your freedom surplus, money stops occupying the center of every decision. Money begins to look more like a tool and less like a race against everyone else. The rat race may still exist, but your relationship with it no longer looks the same. That may be the only version of leaving the rat race that remains grounded in reality. In the end, the biggest problem is not money itself, but a direction that was never clearly defined from the beginning. We often believe we are chasing freedom when we are actually chasing a number that never has a limit. Anything without a limit can never truly feel finished. That is why many people still feel exhausted even when they are financially better off than before. It is not because they failed, but because the game they are playing has no clear finish line. The enoughness algorithm does not change the world, but it changes the way you stand inside it. Once you know your survival floor, comfort ceiling, and freedom surplus, you stop reacting to life and start directing it. Maybe the greatest victory in life is not having more, but knowing when you no longer need to keep chasing, and asking yourself whether you would still pursue the same life after defining your own version of enough.